Hello and welcome to Diecast Diaries. I'm Dan and I've got a couple of fire trucks to have a look at tonight. So back in January I did a video on two Gamma fire engines that I've got in my collection, both quite unusual vehicles. And in that video I did also mention that I did have a model fire truck made by Conrad. Conrad seemed to be part of a trio of high quality German diecast manufacturers, along with Gamma themselves and also NZG, that over the years have made quite a range of particularly commercial and construction type vehicles, as I say, particularly high quality. Now since that video, I've also managed to pick up an additional Conrad fire truck, kind of related to the first one. So as it's been, I think, a few weeks since I last did a video on anything kind of fire related, I thought these would be two good models to have a look at. So first of all, quick sort of overview of Conrad. So they were founded in 1956 by Ludwig Conrad and initially made parts of model railways. And then in 1970, they took over two Nuremberg toy factories, Gescher and Strenko, both of which I must admit I've not heard of before, and started making model vehicles. The model railway side was sold off in 1977, and since then they've concentrated solely on diecast vehicles. The company's been run since 1987 by Gunther Conrad, obviously Ludwig's son. And one interesting thing about them is that they've never outsourced production. The models to this day are still made in Germany. And I think that not only the high quality, but also the fact that they're still made in Germany contributes to their generally quite high cost. They're certainly not cheap models, these. They're now known, I think they briefly made cars during the 80s, but now they're only known really for trucks, construction equipment and mobile cranes. Many of their models have been made for promotional use, and I think that was actually the case with these two, certainly initially at least, before they were then made available publicly. So the first one I've got tonight is, as the backdrop suggests, it's the Emergency 1 Hush Pumper. It's in 1:50 scale, and this was released by Conrad along with a range of other fire engines in 1993. Now, perhaps surprisingly, given that they're obviously a German company and a lot of the other vehicles they make, certainly a lot of the commercial and construction type vehicles are vehicles of German origin. I would say from what I've seen, the vast majority of fire engines that they made seem to be American ones. They've done a number of different sort of styles and a few based on this sort of style. They've done several older type ones and some quite large ones, but they've also done some airport fire engines as well. Don't think they seem to do fire engines anymore. I think that just seems to have been, just during the 90s they seem to have made those. So I'm not sure how long this one was available for, but as I say, it was released in 1993. So the vehicle in question, it's, as I say, an Emergency 1 Hush Pumper. Now, Emergency 1, it's a large American manufacturer of fire engines. They were founded in Florida in 1974, and by the mid-80s, they were the largest fire engine manufacturer in the US, and have since taken over some other companies. And since their founding, they've made almost 30,000 fire trucks in total. So this particular vehicle, it was introduced in 1985, and its main feature that kind of distinguished it from other fire trucks was the fact that the engine was actually moved to the rear of the chassis, which meant that the cab was a lot quieter, hence the name Hush. I'd always wondered kind of what the Hush actually meant. I didn't think it stood for anything. So I was doing a bit of quick research before this video. And yes, it seems to be that, as I say, just because the engine was moved to the back of the chassis. So they were introduced in 1985 and in production until 2015 before being superseded by newer models. Also offered from 1999 as a mid-engine mount, so the engine kind of here with the pump moved to the back. You can see this particular one has a mid-mounted pump. So yeah, as I say, I don't know how long it was made for, but one thing that's immediately apparent with this one is it's really heavy. There's very little plastic content in this at all. In fact, there's only really, obviously, the lights on top of the cab and the interior, and I've got to be honest, not much else. The rest of it is pretty much all metal, and then you've got proper rubber tyres as well. It has nice working steering, and to access the engine, you actually have these panels which slide back, and you can see that's the engine in there. Whether the real one would be painted bright red, I'm not sure, but it looks nice, I must admit. And those slide back just on that side. They don't slide back on the other side. So yeah, so you've got the opening compartment there for the engine. No other working features, but then these really were made as models. And as I say, I think initially, from what I've read, these were initially only available as promotional models for Emergency One, or E1 as they're now known. And I think they were only available through E1 dealers and things like that, and probably available at fire truck related trade shows and all that kind of thing. And then eventually I think they were available to the public. Now, as I mentioned before, because these are very high quality diecast models, they're not particularly cheap, or they've certainly, the ones I've seen haven't been particularly cheap. I first saw this particular model a good number of years ago. I think I was just doing a general search on eBay, came across it, immediately liked it. It just straight away shouted, typical American fire truck that. I love the style of it. I really like the look of it. But was slightly put off by the price. They seem to be going for between £45 and £50. Now, to some people, that might not seem a huge amount, but although I do have a reasonable amount of fire trucks in my collection, they're not the main thing I collect. I would say that's definitely military aircraft and military vehicles. So I didn't really think I could justify spending £45 to £50 on a fire truck. So it did take a number of years before I was able to get one, and I eventually picked one up off eBay a few years back for, I think this was £25, so I was quite pleased with that. I think it's certainly worth that. And you can see it's actually got the Hush logo on the side of the cab there, and then the E1 logo there. I think the only thing that kind of is a little bit disappointing about the model, and I'm guessing this is a reflection of the fact they were used as promotional models, is the fact that it's in just a completely generic scheme. It's quite a smart scheme, admittedly. I do like the red and white with the silver stripe going along the side, but I think it would be really nice to kind of do one in an actual kind of fire department markings. See, just looking at the front, it's got a nice big E1 badge. Obviously, the lights picked out. Quite a nice detailed interior there as well. You can see both seats and the steering wheel, and then you've also got the seats in the back of the cab as well. And I think possibly as well, it would have been quite nice if the pump controls had maybe been sort of picked out a little bit more. It's obviously nicely cast and everything, but it's potentially, although you can certainly tell it's a quality model from the, as I say, the sheer weight of it. It maybe would have been nice for a few of the other sort of little bits and bobs to be kind of picked out like that. You've got obviously the detail on the other side. What I'm pretty sure are a couple of spotlights on the top as well. Even those are metal as well. And then obviously this would be where the hoses would be on the top. And of course, with it being a promotional model, there's no kind of accessories on it or anything like that. It is just kind of your basic fire pumper truck. So yeah, really pleased to finally to get one of these. As I say, I've been after one for a number of years, and yeah, to get one for 25 quid. They do crop up on eBay, sort of fairly common. I think if you go on now and just do a search for Conrad fire trucks, fire engines, you will find a few of these. But as I say, they are still tending to be kind of around the £40–50 mark generally. It is boxed, this one. I do have the box here. And I think the box is also a reflection of the fact that these were initially meant as promotional. You see, looking at here, there's a very big E1 logo, obviously details that the model is 1 to 50 scale. That's the Conrad model number. Hush pumper, obviously detailing what it actually is. Features of the vehicle: 4-door custom cab, body compartment slide back to expose the rear engine, side mount pump panels, we mentioned. And you just got, again, at this point, obviously there's no mention of Conrad at all. So again, you've got E1 on the side, Hush pumper, again the scale and the model number, and then a quite clear label, collector's model, not a toy and unsuitable for children, in case you're thinking of getting one. And again, similar on the other side there. It's only really on, here we go, the back here, you've got E1's address. They are based, as I say, in Florida. That's where certainly one of their factories is, or certainly was as of 1993. So you've got their details there on the back. It's only here that you've actually got anything that denotes that it was made by Conrad. You can see there, made in Germany by Conrad GmbH, and a few details about the company there. But yeah, this really to me reflects that it was a promotional item initially, and all of the ones that I've seen on eBay have all been in this same type box. So I do get the feeling it wasn't. You can see that's not what I paid for it, but you can see that's certainly the sort of price that they've often been going for in the past. Inside, it's just kind of a sort of foam surround just to kind of protect it. So that's the first one tonight. So as I say, that's the E1 Hush pumper by Conrad. And then at the start of this year, it was another one I kind of wanted. I'd been, once I'd found out that Conrad did this quite nice range of American fire trucks, I kind of wanted one of the big sort of ladder trucks. And I noticed that they did one that had the same type cab as the pumper. There's actually a couple of different ones. There's a four-wheeled one, but I particularly wanted the six-wheeled one. So this was actually my first eBay purchase of 2025, and I think I got this for £30. Again, it was boxed. I'll come to the box in a minute. Yeah, really, really pleased to get this one. Similar to the pumper, extremely heavy. This one does have slightly little more plastic, as this entire white bit at the back and these kind of like guardrails, they're all plastic. Other than that, it is all metal. I can't quite decide actually whether, because it has, I'll just bring them out, it actually has fold-out stabilised. These do feel, yeah, I think these are plastic as well, which is kind of unsurprising really. I'll just bring those out so you can see them. Oh, there we go. And obviously on this one you've also got the two lights at the back as well. So this one is the 95-foot aerial, it's just called. It is a genuine model that Emergency One do in real life. Obviously, this is another one that dates from 1993. Modernised versions of this particular vehicle will still be ones produced by E1 to this day. So although it is meant as a model, it does still have a working ladder. So I'll not raise it too high, otherwise obviously it'll disappear out of shot. But it raises up, I'll just show how high it does go. It does kind of raise up pretty much vertically. And then the ladder itself slides out quite a distance. Obviously, it's got to simulate sort of 95 foot, and then again, the extension kind of comes out there. So it's pretty long. Now in the box, this little basket is kept in a little bag. You just have to attach it. Now these were the instructions that came with the model, which I didn't think were particularly clear as to exactly how it fitted to the end of the ladder. So I ended up, when I was getting this set up yesterday, I ended up going on Google, having a quick search for this vehicle, found some really nice close-up colour photographs of one of the models, and it was much clearer as to exactly how the basket attached. It was a little bit of a fiddle getting it attached, and obviously it's supposed to kind of stay, it's supposed to kind of, move like that so that the basket stays in one position as the ladder goes up. It's a little bit stiff. I'm not going to fiddle with it too much, as it is, although it's all metal, it still does feel kind of fairly delicate. I'll just put the ladder back in. Now, unfortunately, when I unboxed this, a piece of metal, I'll just put that over there, a piece of metal fell out, which was this, and I could see it had obviously broken off from somewhere, and I was trying to sort of work out where exactly it had broken off from. It turns out, I'm just going to put these stabilised back. It's good that you do actually push the wheels up off the ground. It's quite effective. It's actually broken off from there, so obviously it is the controls for the ladder. This is probably a weak point of the model, really, in that this is a metal piece, but it just attaches to this plastic peg. It will be fixable. I will get around to fixing that at some point, but yeah, I just thought I didn't want to kind of rush and get it fixed just so I could do the video. So, but even that's kind of quite nicely cast. You've got the little controls there for operating the ladder. But yeah, slightly unfortunate there. And as I say, this one, of course, is noticeably more fragile, I would say, than the pumper. It's got far more bits, but other than that, it's really good, really lovely detail again. So you can see it's got the same cab. Well, this one just has the E1 badge, and then on the front doesn't have a badge. This one, you can see the basket has gone a little bit wonky. I did find this when I was trying to fit it yesterday, that it was extremely fiddly. That's a bit better. So yeah, so as I say, I picked this one up for about £30 at the start of this year. Again, this one also has working steering. There you go. But yeah, there is, as I say, also a four-wheeled ladder truck that uses this same cab. But I kind of wanted the six-wheel one because that one looks, considerably more different and more impressive, really. There are, as I say, other American fire trucks that Conrad do. So there's a couple of older style ones, and I think at least one of those is in a genuine fire department marking. I think it's in Miami fire department markings. The older ones I quite like, although Some of them do still have the kind of open backs to the cabs, the kind of the rear of the cabs kind of open to the elements, which seems to have been a feature of American fire trucks for quite a number of years. In fact, it's something that's always puzzled me is why a lot of American fire trucks had open tops for even well into the 70s. They still had open tops, and even kind of beyond then, even when they had roofs on. As I say, the backs of the cabs sort of remained open to the elements, and it was actually as late as 1991 where a law came in that they all had to have fully enclosed cabs, which was quite surprising, really. But yeah, as I say, I'm pretty sure at least a couple of the earlier ones that Conrad do have that feature of the cab. But they're quite nice models. But as I say, it's hard to kind of find some for reasonable prices. You can sort of find some that are unboxed, but obviously with something like the ladder truck, you run a severe risk of it being sort of damaged. So as I say, I did say I've got the box for this one, so it's very similar in feel to the other one. It just says 95-foot aerial, mid-engine chassis with 3 movable aerial sections and 3-man bucket, 4-door hush cab, and 4 movable jacks can be set. Other than that, it is pretty similar. Again, it's just got, that's the only details there that mention it's made by Conrad. You just got, again, the E1 details there. So, yeah, that's the E1 95-foot aerial by Conrad. So, just thought those would be 2 sort of interesting fire trucks to have a look at. As I sort of mentioned before, I do particularly like American fire trucks, and as I say, when I first saw this one, it was just it really stood out to me as just a sort of classic, traditional-looking American fire truck. Like the colour scheme, as I say, although it is disappointing, it is just generic, and the same can be said for this one as well. It is quite a smart scheme of both of them. I do like the kind of red and the white on both of them. But yeah, I think the one thing that would have just improved them was, it would have been quite nice to get them in proper department colours. But as I say, with their use as promotional models, you can kind of understand it. So I have actually got some more fire engine models I will be featuring, including one that I've currently got on the way off eBay, which I'm particularly looking forward to getting. It's one I've been after for a while. It's rather a special one made by Corgi, so that will be appearing in the not too distant future. But in the meantime, those are my 2 Conrad models. So please do like, share, subscribe, and comment, and I will see you all very soon. Bye.